This is James Randi, and you're listening to The Skeptic Zone.
Welcome to The Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to The Skeptic Zone, episode number 229 for the 9th of March 2013. Richard Saunders here with you from the beautiful, the gorgeous countryside at Mitta, Victoria, Australia. It's just after dawn, the birds are singing, there's a babbling brook right down in front of me. I'm at the house of Laurie and Eden Smith, who are the local skeptics here, some of the local skeptics. Yes, the birds are singing. It's really a magical place. I wish you were all here. On this week's show, we're going to kick off with Maynard's spooky action. What an interesting Maynard spooky action we have for you this week. Maynard is going to be speaking with Simon Frew from the Pirate Party Australia. Is your online freedom at risk? What is the law in regards to your online activities, and can the government snoop on you? That's coming up at the top of the show with Maynard's spooky action and the Pirate Party Australia. Following that, it's another instalment of the Week in Science with our dear friend Dr. Paul Willis from the Royal Institution in Adelaide. That's www.riaus.org.au, and what a fine institution that is. A wrap-up of the Week in Science. And then we have Dr. Rachie Reports. Well, sort of a Dr. Racie Reports. Dr. Racie, along with our very own Peter Bowditch from Australian Skeptics, and Julie Leask with Kate Tracy and Hannah Belnick, were all interviewed on Radio 2SER about anti-vaccination and vaccination issues. Yes, Radio 2SER, where this report was first heard. And we thank Radio 2SER very much for kindly allowing the Skeptic Zone to use this story. And following that, it's off to Skeptics in the Pub in Sydney, where I play the part of Maynard. Now, it's usually Maynard running around with his microphone at Skeptics in the Pub. Maynard couldn't make it this week, so I took over Maynard duties, and I ask some questions which you might ponder while you're listening to the Skeptic Zone until we get to that segment. The questions I ask, which are sort of related, is 1, do you think that human society as a whole will ever turn to science and reason and away from superstition and belief? And 2, if that does happen, how long do you think it'll take? Will it be a week? Will it be 2 weeks? Will it be 10 years, 20 years, a century, 2 centuries, or so on? Ponder those questions. And to wrap up the show, oh man, oh boy, jealous or what, Maynard has a story about the electric conversion, or the conversion to electric power, of a DeLorean, a real DeLorean, and Maynard gets to have a ride in it. Wow! And I was putting this story together when Maynard sent it to me. I was just so jealous. Join Maynard for a ride in an electric DeLorean. What has that got to do with skepticism, I hear you cry? Well, not so much, but it's a DeLorean. It's just so beautiful here. Birds are singing. Oh, the sun's now coming through the trees. Yes, I think the birds can see it too. What a magical place. Now, for the folks in Sydney, Australian Skeptics are having a dinner meeting on the 6th of April with Dr. Brooke Magnanti, forensic pathologist, genetic epidemiologist, and author of Secret Diary of a Call Girl. Talks on sex myths and why we believe them. Now, that's going to be at the Ryde Eastwoods League Club, West Ryde, 7 o'clock on the 6th of April. And you can book your tickets. You don't have to be a subscriber to the Skeptic magazine. Anybody can come along. Go to www.skeptics.com.au, and I'm just being joined by a little dog at my feet. Hello. Hello. Yes, hello. You sit there. Yeah, you sit there and listen to me. No, another dog. What's going on? Hello. Good morning. Yes. Sit. Good dog. It's all happening here, folks. Right. Yes, thank you, dogs. The 6th of April, 7 o'clock, skeptics.com.au for more details and to get your tickets. Was that the breakfast bell I just heard in the background? It could well be. Well, I better run to have my breakfast. More information from me coming up during the show about the wonderful film festival I'm going to be speaking at in the Czech Republic. But I think these dogs are telling me it's time to go and go up. I'm not going to run downstairs because I'm not near stairs. I'm going to run up this short hill here, run to the breakfast table, and while I'm doing that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Come on, dogs. Let's go. Come on. Breakfast time.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, I don't often speak to politicians, but I may well be speaking to a politician now from a party that doesn't have a lot of history, but it does have a history internationally. Please welcome Simon Frew, Deputy of the Australian Pirate Party. Is that the correct name of the party, Simon?
Technically Pirate Party Australia, yeah.
Are you in any way affiliated or inspired by the people that I first heard this name from, the guys from Pirate Bay that got the Swedish Pirate Party going a few years back?
Originally came from the same movement. They originally set up to defend the Pirate Bay, the downloading site, to fight against attacks from the legal system in Sweden. They formed a political party to fight back, and since then they got a few people elected to the European Parliament, and it's spread around the world, and we formed a local branch back around 2009.
I think you can be fairly succinct in saying, what is the Pirate Party's platform?
Basically, we came about due to the attacks on civil liberties online. So our main interest is trying to fight back against surveillance and bans on file sharing and governments generally using the change in technology to online as a way to strip back civil liberties.
A lot of people would think that their activities online are completely anonymous, even now, and I imagine almost every single thing you do online is recorded somewhere and can be found out by someone at any time unless you take extreme lengths. That's correct, isn't it?
Basically, sites like Facebook, Google, to a lesser extent Twitter, they all hand over information to governments on a relatively regular basis. Facebook and Google both do it without usually even putting up a fight. Twitter's a bit more different, where they'll actually try to defend the right to privacy in court. Today, actually, we have a petition going into the Australian Senate with Green Senator Scott Ludlam is presenting. It's about the national security inquiry that was held late last year, where they want to collect all sort of phone carrier data, who you're emailing, things like that, without warrants. Use it as a way to track everyone. They sort of claim that they're losing these abilities with people moving from normal traditional landlines to mobile devices and internet.
I would think that this makes it incredibly easier for them to find out things about people, because if you want to track someone and they've got a phone with them, you got them.
Exactly, yeah.
And all you've got to do is present reasonable reason why you would like to do that. And if you are a law enforcer, you should have reasonable reason to find out where someone is. You shouldn't just do it because it's a Thursday.
There's limits to what they actually can and can't do, but a lot of that stuff is actually they can do without a warrant. Even now, they've got a lot of ability to see where phone towers in here. And
you're up against quite a task with the Pirate Party, because as well as warning about civil liberties, you have to try and let people know what civil liberties they've lost as well, and a lot of people aren't aware of that.
They are basically claiming access to rights they never actually had with people with phones, like being able to access emails and stuff like that. They just have never really been able to do that. Actual biggest problems when the powers get abused, countless records of police, looking up ex-lovers and stuff on criminal databases.
Yes, so does it tend to be law enforcement people overstepping their line, or does it tend to be someone at the tax office looking up a celebrity? What sort of cases have come to mind that you can think of?
Cases of things like that going on quite a bit. In the UK, where they have a data retention regime already set up, they've had telco employees selling data to data mining companies, so selling all the private information of customers, which has been kept for government use.
So say someone at a telecommunications company was offered money from a large newspaper conglomerate that would like to know phone numbers or a list of phone data. They would offer a person quiet on the counter on a Friday night at the pub a bit of money, and a USB stick might exchange hands. That could be a theoretical situation.
Yeah, most definitely. We're not entirely sure what sort of system they're going to propose with the law, because they've just held the inquiry into all the issues around it. They've been a bit quiet about what they actually want to do. I think also being an election year, they might just leave it on the back burner until after the election.
Your party actually has quite a wide platform beyond just wanting to download music. There's civil liberties, of course. It goes into patent legislations and laws that apply internationally, free trade agreements that Australia signs. You've actually got a party that covers a very wide area.
We're also in the process of trying to expand our platform in the lead up to the election. We'll have a conference in April to introduce new ideas and see what members say. If
people want to find out more about the Pirate Party Australia, is that the official name?
Pirate Party Australia, yep.
You've got a regular podcast you can have a listen to about weekly updates of what you get up to, but what's the website where people can either get on there and agree or disagree with you?
pirateparty.org.au.
Simon Frew, Deputy President of the Pirate Party Australia, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Brian Dunning from the Skeptoid podcast at Skeptoid.com. For 15 years now, Dr. Bob's Trivia Quiz has been a part of Australian Skeptics. Each month, the mysterious Dr. Bob comes up with questions that defy all logic and reason. Only the best of the best dare attempt to answer these brain twisters, and no, Google won't help you. Visit drbobsquiz.wordpress.com. That's DRBOBS quiz.wordpress.com to take part and to see the complete archive of Dr. Bob's Trivia Quiz. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Welcome to A Week in Science. This week, fluoride in water, paleoclimate shocks, and how to build a planet. Fluoridation of water has been in the news recently as some towns have ended this effective public health practice. But a long-term study of Australian teeth released this week reveals a significant reduction in dental problems in people with a longer history of drinking fluoridated water. The study found around 10% less decayed, missing and filled teeth in people with a high lifetime fluoride exposure compared to those with a low exposure. The study concluded that there was a dose-related effect of fluoridation. The longer the exposure, the less dental care problems occur. A study released this week looked at the relationship between carbon dioxide and global warming at the end of the last ice age. Previous studies of gas trapped in Antarctic ice showed that the climate was warmer during periods of high atmospheric CO2 and colder when CO2 was lower. This study showed that these changes occurred simultaneously, suggesting that they are related. Meanwhile, a second study released this week reports that today's global climate is warmer than it has been for most of the last 11,300 years. A pattern emerged with a rise in temperature as the last ice age ended. Warming conditions continued until a cooling trend over the 5,000 years that ended around 200 years ago. Since then, temperatures have risen steadily. 4 science headlines in 30 seconds. BPA from plastic food containers may increase the risk of childhood asthma. Phantom pain, the pain experienced from a missing limb, is caused by disruptions to the sensory motor cortex of the brain. Brainwaves are shaped to allow people to focus on the sound of a speaker competing against background noise. And the protein which allows the taste buds to tell the brain about different tastes has been identified. And finally this week, astronomers have observed a previously unseen phenomena, the birth of a planet. An international team studied a disk of gas and dust that surrounds the young star HD 100546, located a neighbourly 335 light-years from Earth. The astronomers concluded that this celestial construction job could take tens of thousands of years, allowing for changes to council planning regulations, an overly incompetent architect and dodgy tradies. It's the last week of Fringe, so make sure to check out rock band Ologism this weekend. And on March 16, we welcome back astronomer Fred Watson for a book club event featuring his new book, Star Craving Mad. Information on our website. That's been another big week in science. You can watch this episode and other episodes of A Week in Science, as well as a host of other great science videos, through our website, riaus.org.au, where you can also sign up for notifications of future episodes. You can follow A Week in Science on Twitter using the hashtag WeekInSci. I'm Paul Willis, and on behalf of the RiAus team, I'll see you next week.
Hey, Kenny.
Oh, hi, Tom.
Nice day at this park, yeah?
Yes, great weather.
Oh, look, a unicorn.
Unicorn? There are no such things as unicorns, silly.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't.
Hey, guys, what are you arguing about?
Tom thinks unicorns are real.
They so are.
Let's look this up in the Skeptics Dictionary.
The what?
How can we do this in this park? There is no computer here.
You guys probably don't know about the Skeptics Dictionary app. Available now for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch in the App Store.
Wow, cool.
The app lets you access all of the great Skeptics Dictionary articles when you're on the go. Here, let me look up unicorns.
Oh, cool. Kenny, prepare to be proven wrong.
It says here, the unicorn is a creature from fables.
Aha!
Actually, I see now that someone just dumped their ice cream cone on that horse's head. Thanks, Skeptics Dictionary iPhone app.
I'm still here at this wonderful, the countryside here at Mitta, having a chat to skeptical Steve Roberts. Steve Roberts, who rode a motorbike from London right across to Magadan in Russia.
Far East Russia, yeah. We rode across Europe, across Russia, down to Kazakhstan and back out again, and around Mongolia, and then across the whole of Siberia and out the other side into the Russian Far East. And we ended up at a town called Magadan, which is where the road ends, and it's sort of near Vladivostok, but it's down that end anyway.
That's extraordinary. And you wrote a blog about your adventures.
I did, yeah. If you Google Steve Road of Bones, it'll come out number one, probably.
I've seen some of the video and some of the pictures you took. It looks like an extraordinary trip to take on the back of a motorbike.
Oh, on the front of a motorbike, better still. Yeah, it was a rather dim thing to do, really. I mean, it was wet and cold and unpleasant, or it was very hot.
Oh, you loved it.
Kazakhstan in the summer was plus 40 degrees, and you're wearing black motorcycle clothing, and then Siberia in the autumn is, 0 degrees, and it rains, and that was unpleasant. And I don't really know why we did it, because some people go to the beach on Bali, that's very nice, but that's what I did.
Now, in your great adventure, did you go anywhere near the Czech Republic, by any chance?
No, I didn't. Sorry about that. We carved straight across, cut that one out.
No, that's all right, because I mentioned the Czech Republic because, as I've been mentioning to my listeners, I'm off there to a rather amazing-looking conference, Academia Film OlomoucA, and we've been wondering how to pronounce Olomouc.
I can't help you with that. I don't speak Czech. Olomouc is how it's spelt, but that's in Czech, and I'm
sure I'll be corrected by the good folks there.
Straight away, yeah.
But folks, if you actually here's something to do on YouTube. Have a search for this place, OlomouC, and what a wonderfully interesting town it is in the Czech Republic. It looks like a university and lots of nightlife and culture and wonderful streets with modern trams. I'm really looking forward to visiting it. And this festival itself, which is the 48th international event they have there. Look at what they have: mathematics, with Fermat's last theorem, pseudoscience.
It's an academic film festival of some sort. Yeah. The teaching of science through film.
The UFOs will be discussed. I'll be there, of course, discussing water divining, which is why we're in Mitta this very weekend. We've got vaccination issues coming up, politics, global warming, games, PC games. Folks, have a look at the website. It's www.afo.cz, or I could say CZ for Americans. It looks like a fantastic trip. More details coming up on the Skeptic Zone in the next couple of weeks, and I'll try and convince you to come anyway.
Now it's time for Dr. Racie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
The anti-vaccination movement is in the spotlight again. Last week, the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission began civil proceedings against Homeopathy Plus, a website that claimed that the whooping cough vaccine was ineffective and unreliable. At the same time, the Australian Vaccination Network is fighting an order from the New South Wales Department of Fair Trading to change its name or risk being shut down. The department claims that since the AVN is a lobby group with a solely anti-vaccination stance, its name is misleading. Dr. Rachel Dunlop is a postdoctoral research fellow at UTS in the School of Medical and Molecular Biosciences. She says that the case involving the ACCC and their homeopathic website is unusual because it would normally be a matter for the Therapeutic Goods Administration. But the TGA doesn't have a lot of power to shut misleading websites down. In fact, the website in question has been pursued by the TGA before.
I don't think that this is going to become a precedence where the ACCC does this stuff on a regular basis because they don't have the resources and it's not really what they're supposed to do. It's not really their role. Their role is not necessarily in health claims. That really is the role of the TGA. So it really highlights the fact that the TGA needs to be overhauled and we need to get new legislation in so that they can prosecute things like this. With respect to the AVN being told to change their name by the Department of Fair Trading, this is a serious matter. This is not a trivial matter. And also I think this is a thin end of the wedge for the AVN. This is something that the Department of Fair Trading have gone in with, but I think they have a lot more up their sleeves. I think they're pretty determined to see this organisation being pulled into line.
Getting your children vaccinated is not compulsory in Australia, and some parents still opt out. Associate Professor Julie Leask at the School of Public Health at the University of Sydney says that the majority of Australian parents do get their children vaccinated, and despite the number being low in some areas, it has not decreased over the last 10 years. The key to keeping these numbers healthy is good communication.
We have to be very vigilant about trends in declining confidence in vaccines. At the moment, we have about 2% of parents who actively refuse vaccination. We can't afford for that group to grow. If that group grows, we will lose herd immunity and we will get more outbreaks and epidemics. So it is very important that government prioritise good communication, and that is not just about delivering information to people in that one-way process.
Associate Professor Leask says that the anti-vaccination movement is as old as vaccines themselves, and it's not going away. Parents can get confused when they find too much conflicting information.
I think it's difficult when parents are looking for information and they feel like you're either getting the really anti-vaccine stuff or the really pro-vaccine sort of propaganda which wants to sweep the risks under the carpet. The really good quality information will own up to the fact that there are some risks. The serious side effects of vaccination are quite rare, and overall the benefits of vaccination far outweigh their risks. But it's still important to acknowledge those risks, to give people a sense of how big they are, what they are, so that people who are concerned can sort of get a sense of where the boundaries of those risks lie.
Peter Bowditch is a member of the organisation Australian Skeptics and has his own website where he challenges misinformation and pseudoscience on the internet. He's passionate about combating false claims made by the anti-vaccination movement.
But there's an enormous movement which opposes the idea that doctors are good people. That is, doctors are apparently only in it for the money. Vaccines are only developed to make billions of dollars for pharmaceutical companies. Well, I've always taken the view that I'm never going to convince a true believer. My job is to expose them to the fence sitters so people can actually make a choice. And I get, apart from the collection of hate mail I get from people telling me I'm a dreadful person and I should die, I get quite a significant number of emails from people who say thank you. Because a lot of them weren't aware of, they'll get a little bit of information from somebody and go looking on the internet. And what they found is someone actually pointing out the flaws, the things that the anti-vaccination people say that aren't true. And that points them back towards saying, well, let's go and look at the science. So, I really can believe my doctor.
But for parents, the issue can be about a conflict between social responsibility and individual rights. Kate Tracy has a 10-month-old child and is a holistic practitioner in alternative medicine. She says she is resistant to get her baby vaccinated, but not 100% against it.
It's a very complicated argument on that position because the argument for vaccination is, sure, 1 in 100,000 people may have a negative response to vaccination, which could damage them for the rest of their lives. But for the good of society, we get vaccinated. So it's a social thing. It's not an individual thing. But we live in a place where we have individual rights. We have autonomy, medical autonomy. We don't have to do what the Western Medical Convention dictates. I just feel of what I've read that it's possibly and maybe an outdated mode of protecting the immune system. Like, we have many other ways to strengthen the immune system.
And for children who grow up unvaccinated, the responses from other people can strike a real nerve. Hannah Belnick's mother decided not to vaccinate her or her sister as children. She says that the negative comments from strangers can be surprising.
It isn't an issue in my life at all until it comes up, say, in conversation, and I mention it, and people have very strong views about it, and often they see me as somehow harmful to society, and that I am making, in some ways, an immoral decision to be part of society and not be vaccinated the way everyone else is.
Hannah says she is choosing not to get vaccinations herself as an adult, but will vaccinate her future children.
So no, I wouldn't be continuing it on, but I don't want to be vaccinated as an adult, and I feel like people should be allowed to choose whether to vaccinate their children or not when it is an informed decision. And it's likely that if I were to get a disease that other people were vaccinated for, I can treat that. I can be treated.
So why is it that some people reject vaccines that were developed to save lives? Associate Professor Leask says that there was a time when science and technology were imbued with a lot of hope and promise, but not everybody is so trusting anymore.
So, there are those occasional but spectacular failures of medicine, like thalidomide, like x-raying the feet of all children to check their shoe sizes, and then realising that those practices were actually dangerous and needed to be changed. And I think the anti-vaccine messaging, and certainly the people who feel mistrust in vaccines or other medical technologies, locate their concerns within those wider problems that are genuine issues around the occasional failures of medicine and pharmaceuticals. There's also this tendency there's a consumerism in healthcare, and we call it healthism, where people are very consciously thinking about their healthcare choices and being much more involved in them, which is a good thing. And vaccination, gets brought into that kind of discussion or discourse. And so when you hear about people, mums in particular, saying, look, I want to look into this and make sure that I'm making the right decision for my child, that's a mum who is wanting to do the best by her child, and is also concerned to not just take what's given, and it's a sort of backlash against paternalistic medicine.
Dr. Dunlop says that the reasons lie in the perceptions of risk and the emotions surrounding it.
People are unable to really rationalise risk anymore. So I think with vaccination in particular, because we don't see the diseases anymore, because we're not going into school and we're seeing kids with polio in calipers or kids dropping dead from tuberculosis, the risk of the side effects of vaccination is now elevated in people's minds because we don't have much of a concept of the risk of the disease anymore. The other issue, I think, is that if your child is out in a playground or at primary school and they catch a bacteria like pertussis and they get sick, that's a horrible thing to happen, but that's nothing that you were involved in. It wasn't your fault. The bacteria came along, your kid got sick, that's fine. If you take your child to a doctor and you agree to a medical procedure, which is a vaccination, and they are 1 in a million who get a side effect or a bad adverse event, then you're directly responsible for causing your child to be sick. So all that stuff is going on in people's heads, and we're influenced by that really easily. And science is cold, and it's, full of maths and graphs. It's not an emotional response. People are driven emotionally. So when you see stories that are on the internet, whether they're true or not, that a child had a vaccination and had an adverse event and now has autism, which is not actually a side effect of vaccinations, but that stuff is out there, that sticks in people's heads, and it's like ringing a bell. You can't unring a bell.
This is Carrie Poppy.
I'm Ross Blotcher.
Oh, hey, Ross.
Hey, we're from a podcast called
Oh No, Ross and Carrie.
We find out what happens when you show up and ask questions.
We've hung out with the Kabbalists.
The Mormons.
We've gone and gotten ear candles.
Gone to the Sikhs.
We show up so you don't have to.
So find out where we're going next.
We'll even have special episodes where we have famous guests like Brian Dalton from Mr. Deity.
You heard that awesome theme music? He wrote that.
You should come visit us at onopodcast.com or
facebook.com/onrack.
What the hell's OnRack, Ross?
ONRAC.
Oh no, Ross and Carrie.
That's our show.
That's so smart. Come join us.
Well, we're here at Sydney Skeptics in the Pub, and again, it's been another full house. Richard Saunders here, being Maynard. I'm Maynard tonight because Maynard can't be with us, and Maynard's normally the guy running around here at Skeptics in the Pub asking the big questions. I'm with Richard. Hello, Richard.
G'day, Richard.
Good to see you here again at Skeptics in the Pub. The big question this week is, do you think that human society will eventually turn to the side of science and reason? And if so, how long do you think that will take?
Oh, dear. We've got different human populations evolving at different rates, and I think probably sooner with the Western side of things, but with the developing world, there's still a little bit too much religious influence, and I don't know.
I don't know seems to be a pretty popular answer, I think.
Yeah. So, yeah, it depends on how we go.
That's as good as answer as I think I'm going to get.
Yeah.
It's a tricky question. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Yes?
There's a man with a very fluorescent orange microphone approaching rapidly.
That's a microphone, is it? Oh, I didn't know that was a microphone. I thought Richard was just... No, never mind.
Something out of Fraggle Rock, actually.
It's the only microphone cover I had. Yes, folks, you know that voice so well. It's Joanne Benamou from Reality Bites. Hello, Jo.
Hello, Richard. I really must do Reality Bites again. It's been ages.
Yes, please do.
I will, I promise.
Now, we're here at Skeptics in the Pub, of course, and the big question tonight, the two big questions is, do you think that human society as a whole will eventually turn to the side of science and reason? And if so, how long do you think that might take?
Short answer, no. I don't.
Oh.
I don't. I don't think human society ever will, because we're not built that way. The only way we can do it is evolve it out of ourselves. So I think all we can do is just sort of keep chipping away as best we can, focus on the things that are really important. But no, I don't think it'll ever really happen.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sorry to be so pessimistic.
No, interesting answer. Tim Mendham, the editor of the Skeptic magazine, and we're looking forward to the next issue coming out soon.
In about a week's time.
What are some of the topics readers can look forward to?
Well, we've got a lot of topics. A special feature this time on law and skepticism, including an anonymous article from a Secret Service person.
Ooh.
Talking about how they apply skepticism in that profession. Plus we've got the law and medicine, how doctors and what they can actually do with people who want strange things. And we've got a number of other articles, the usual sort of weird and wonderful sort of wacky sort of selection. We've got cargo cults, and we've got, what else have we got? We've got various real cults, and, far too many things to remember off the top of my head this late in the evening.
I have to say, I'm actually rather excited to get the next issue of the magazine, because I finally got myself an iPad, and I plan on reading it on my lovely new iPad.
Excellent. Did you pose the question, will human beings ever be totally rational?
Yes, and if so, how long do you think it's going to take? Centuries, decades, millennia, blah, blah, blah?
I think next Tuesday looks...
Next Tuesday?
If we're talking all of them, no. Actually, I think it's getting better. You look at the number of people who actually have no religion. It's growing.
They might have no religion, but there are still other areas where they can still be irrational.
We just run them in the corners, actually, everywhere. Just corner them down, paint them in the corners, and eventually, there'll always be people who believe weird things, and as soon as you block off one thing, the people turn to something else. It's remarkably resilient, is the belief that people have. When something is a dead end, they'll move on to something else.
Don't you think one of the first things we need to do to actually really change things is to make it part of our political conversation, and also to recognise that we're all like that. Every single one of us, to the most die-hard skeptic, we have our irrational bits. And until we actually recognise that, I think it's going to be pretty hard to change a lot of things.
You? Irrational Joe?
Oh, absolutely.
I find that hard to believe.
Ask my husband.
Well, he's right there. I could ask him. So that's great. Thank you, Tim. And yes, the Skeptic magazine, of course, one of the finest skeptical journals in the world. www.skeptics.com.au. Subscribe online.
Thank you very much.
You should. Shane Greenup from RiAus.com, right?
.com, that's it.
Now, what is RiAus for those Skeptic Zone listeners who sort of remember hearing about it?
So it's a browser extension which basically alerts you whenever a page that you're reading has been rebutted elsewhere on the internet. So, RiAus connects claims to rebuttals, gives you the alert, and allows you to submit your own rebuttals if you find one that isn't in the system yet.
It's a valuable website. Now, the question that's going around tonight here, two questions really. Do you think that human society as a whole will ever turn more or less to science and reason? If so, how long do you think that might take? Decades, centuries?
I do think we will, but I'm one of those crazy followers of the works of Ray Kurzweil, and basically believe in one form or another that the singularity is coming. So I think it's inevitable that technology will increasingly become a part of us. We will augment our minds, our brains. We'll get closer and closer to this permanent, interactive connection with the internet, and we will augment not only our connection to it, to the breadth of human knowledge, but also our ability to think. So we will end up making ourselves so logical and rational that we'll feel stupid to do anything but apply that rationality. And how long I think that'll take? I think it'll be less than 100 years.
Wow! I must admit, when somebody put this question to me, a very good friend of mine by the name of Philip Escoffi, hello Philip if you're listening, I agreed that I thought, eventually I think we will, but I gave it about 2 centuries.
Yeah, I think, and of course this all has to be tempered with, based on believing Ray Kurzweil's sort of arguments, and there's lots of criticisms of them, but this is my current belief. Happy to be challenged on it. There was another thing. Is also, even in that's actually, chances are there won't be everyone. It may actually be the case. You will always get the people that refuse technology and will live in natural state. There'll be the naturals. So who knows?
So I'm sorry. I'm really reminded of A Brave New World now. The book.
It may be a lot like that.
Simple Simon Savage, and I haven't read it for many years.
I've got it on my bookshelf. I want my dad to read it.
Well, things are quietening down a little bit now, and I found Jessica Singer, the Secretary of Australian Skeptics. Hello, Jessica.
Hey, Richard. How are you going?
Oh, I'm so well I can hardly believe it. I'm sceptical about how well I am. Now, the question tonight, it's sort of like 2 questions in one. Do you think that human society will ever generally or on the whole turn to science and reason? And if so, how long do you think that might take?
Well, I think my answer to the first question sort of renders the second question obsolete because I don't think, unfortunately, I don't think human society is going to turn to science and reason. I actually don't think we're made that way, and I think somebody like Chrissy Wilson, who you've no doubt had on the Zone before.
Yes, she's our roving reporter, in fact.
There you go. And she's doing a lot of work in this area, and why people believe things and why people believe weird things. And I think what's interesting is why humans have this tendency and why we're made that way. So I'm very interested in her work, but I don't think there's a fantastic prospect for humanity generally.
Oh, dearie me.
I know, doesn't sound depressing, but hey, life is fun and you can have a great time along the way. And skeptics know how to party.
We do. But it's interesting, Jesse, because I asked the same question to some people tonight, including Joe Benamu. Now, the interesting thing is the females I asked give the pessimistic answer and the males give the optimistic answer.
Oh, well, that's actually...
So far.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Maybe Chrissy Wilson should have a look at that.
Ooh.
There's a thought. Well, that's really interesting, and I could not even begin to speculate why that would be.
Well, it's a very small sample size.
This is true. Small sample size, hardly representative, and not statistically significant.
I am forced to agree. I'd better ask somebody else.
Good one. See you later.
And the question tonight, of course, is, do you think that someday human society as a whole will turn to the side of science and reason? And if so, how long do you think that would take?
I don't expect it to happen in a hurry, because I think people have an instinct to find patterns where there aren't any patterns and do whatever will make it, require less effort to think. So I think people always want easy answers, prefer some things to be mystical rather than things to be determined through deduction and very careful analysis, because that requires effort. So I think it takes an active effort to educate people to think scientifically, analytically, to look for evidence for things, to think critically. And based on that, I think there are reasons why humans evolved to draw conclusions quickly. Back when we were, living, like cavemen in the wild, you had to adapt to the threats of wild animals, and those instincts will take a while to go away. I don't know whether they'll go away through evolution or because we'll have an education system that instills them so thoroughly from a young age. But yeah, I think I reckon centuries. I'm not going to be an optimist. It'll be a struggle.
Good answer, thank you. A gauge boson.
Yes. Well, sometimes you get three gluons holding three quarks together, then you've got a proton or a neutron.
Folks, the conversations at Skeptics in the Pub just boggle my mind. It's Ian Bryce, the chief investigator from Australian Skeptics. Ian, what are you raving about?
I'm talking about our entry in the Mardi Gras 2013.
Wow, and you got some photographs there. Can you just, for our audience, can you briefly explain what was the float, who was the float, and what was it all about?
Okay, the float was called the Higgs boson, the godless particle, because, of course, the media dubbed it the God particle, but atheists know it's the godless particle. And the aim was to celebrate the discovery of the decade, the scientific discovery of the decade. And also, there's a lot of colour and motion involved. Each person participating was an elementary particle, a quark or electron or gluon or photon or so forth. And also they form relationships, as in human relationships. So during the choreography, the particles join together in ones and twos and threes, much like humans do. Mixed couples and opposite couples and same couples and triples and so forth. So we drew parallels between the theme of the Mardi Gras, which is all the different sexual orientations, and the way elementary particles relate. And I think the audience loved that.
And it looks spectacular. You've got lots of lanterns and people with giant sort of plastic slinkies and marching along, and there is you sitting up on the back of a truck directing the action.
Yes, I was the Higgs boson. I was giving directions to both the audience from the sides who wanted to know what was going on, and also to the dancers who wanted to know which part of the choreography was coming next. So I was holding up cue cards and making announcements.
Now, Ian, something completely different to what we've been discussing tonight. I happen to know, because you told me, and I've known your dog for many years, Sapphire. She is an elderly dog who has been going blind and was blind for a few years. But thank you, science, she can now see again.
Yes, indeed. She got cataracts in both eyes and was totally blind for about a year and lost a lot of interest in life. But just recently, science to the rescue. She's had one eye out and one new eye, or at least one new lens in her eye. And she's responded quite strangely. She became hyperactive, running around, looking left and right and examining everything, and obviously enjoying life a lot more. Can run now, because a blind dog can't run because they're going to bump into things. And strangely enough, her appetite has doubled, which we can only put down to the extra exercise she's getting, an extra interest in life. So that's really been quite wonderful. It just shows you the wonders of science.
That's great, because I know that dog. It's a lovely dog you've had for many years, and to think that now it can see again after a couple of years of blindness is just fantastic.
Yes, it certainly is. She probably thinks, well, that was a bloody long night, but thank goodness it's over.
Kathy Marks, journalist, what do you think?
My brain is working very slowly tonight because I haven't had a day off for about 3 weeks. But off the top of my head, I would say no, I don't think that they will eventually turn science. Unfortunately, I just don't. I think that more and more people are attracted to mumbo jumbo, pseudo-science, myths, all that rubbish. Why? Because probably turning away from religion and, the world's changing, globalisation, blah, 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 and they see this sort of stuff as something to cling on to. That's just a very kind of, trivial response probably, but...
It's interesting. I've got some very interesting answers to that question. When it was asked of me, I answered more or less in the positive, but I thought it might take a couple of centuries.
You thought it might take?
A couple of centuries.
Oh. I just can't look that far ahead.
Well, it is difficult. Well, it's almost closing time at the pub, and there's a few scragglers and hangers-on. Hello.
Hi.
And who do we have here?
I'm Emma Markham from the UK.
Just visiting?
I'm actually over here working for a year.
Excellent. Having a good time, I hope.
Yes, it's really amazing. I'm loving Sydney.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. And what brings you out here? What are you working at?
So, originally my motivation for coming here is I was working in clinical trials in the UK, and I was sort of getting a bit disillusioned by it all and wanted to try something new, and I understood that Australia is an exciting place for scientists, and that you're not experiencing the same kind of recession that Europe is in at the moment, so I thought I should come out here for new opportunities, really.
What a great idea. There you are, folks. There's the word. Come out to Australia for new opportunities. Now, while you're here, and I'm so pleased to see you at Skeptics in the pub, and I hope you've had a good time.
Yes, it's been amazing. It's kind of an interesting contrast between the Skeptics movement in the UK, where it's very casual in the pub, and they do a little presentation. It's sort of very interesting that you also include a dinner, and I think the talks are sort of more sort of based on Australian ideas and current issues, and I think that that's really interesting to sort of get a better understanding of the country and how skepticism works in Australia.
I'm delighted to hear it. Now, the question tonight, well, it's sort of like two questions in one. Do you think that human society in general will ever eventually turn to science and reason? And if so, how long do you think that might take?
I think that there is certainly propensity to move towards reason, especially when you provide the facts and information and education. But also I think people are easily deceived and led astray by pseudoscience and things that seem to add up but then really don't. So I think it will take a long time. There's certainly a movement towards logic and reasoning. I definitely agree that there is. We can see that in the UK, where now the latest census has indicated that 25% of the population don't believe in any god or any religious figure. So that would indicate that sort of everything is moving more to a logical and reasoning basis, and as science is moving forward, people are getting more educated in what is real and what is not, and being able to explain what isn't real. Recently, things like, hallucinations can now be explained like as a mental thing rather than rather than a
mystical
God. Yeah. So absolutely, I think it's going to take a long time, but I think that there's definitely signals that it's moving that way.
That's a very positive answer. And what time frame are we looking at? Decades, centuries?
I'd say definitely decades. I'd like to be more positive than centuries. I mean, but if we compare, how things were in, 100 years ago, we've moved, huge leaps and bounds forward, and especially as we improve in technology and everyone starts to get a better level of education and understanding of how technology works, we start to sort of debunk all the things that we used to believe in. So I think it's going to get faster and faster, hopefully exponential, but don't quote me. I'd like to think that it's in the next few decades that we would be able to get rid of ideas such as homeopathy and chiropractic and things like that, and get to more of a factual basis and science basis for all the decisions we make.
I certainly hope so. Now, what part of the UK are you from?
I'm originally from Cambridge, but I mostly live and work in London.
And how long have you been in Australia now?
I've just moved to Australia in December, so only been here a couple of months.
You know you've already picked up a little Australian accent?
Yes, I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologise for it.
The local influence, what can I say?
Well, it's lovely to see you with your double helix earrings.
Yes, thank you. I'm very passionate about science, and I just really love and enjoy it so much that I find it inspires me, and I really love being here. It's a very exciting place to be.
This is Ben Radford. I'm Deputy Editor of Skeptical Inquirer Science Magazine, author of 6 books, including Tracking Chupacabra, and you can find out more about me at benjaminradford.com.
Well, I'm here at Warners Bay, people, and I could not be more excited in my little small pants because I'm actually touching, at this very moment, a DeLorean. That's right. There's only a couple of them around, and this is an electric one. I mean, a lot of people talk about science. A lot of people talk a big game about science, but here's a guy who's actually done something for science and turned a DeLorean car into an electric DeLorean car. Who are you, and why would you do a crazy thing like this?
Okay, my name's Brett Sutherland from Solar Power Australia. The reason is I've always had a passion for the DeLorean, probably since the movies, Back to the Future movies, and also I wanted to build an electric car, so decided to do both.
Well, but this is like, for some people, this could be sacrilege. It could be like a Ferrari Enzo, like ripping out the engine and putting something in. Did you have to think deep and long about this? Because how's the value of the car been affected by turning it into an electric one?
Well, there's a couple of points there. Like, one of my mates is exactly like that. He was pretty well against me pulling the motor out.
But what does he drive, bud? A HQ Kingswood?
No, he's into Mustangs and things like that.
Oh, well, like I said, a HQ Kingswood, yeah, just with a bigger motor and a different shape.
That's right. But
everyone knows in America Mustang's a girl's car.
Exactly. But, he was against it, along with a lot of other people, but he's now seen the vehicle and realises that it was done well, and it's actually improved the vehicle. And the motor that was in the car wasn't that powerful. Like, it was a 2.8 litre V6, which was about 130 horsepower.
And now, was it a Lotus engine?
It was a Peugeot Renault Volvo engine, so PRV they called it.
Wow, okay. So where did you find one? As far as I know, very few are sold in this country, and was it an expensive process?
Well, there's a guy who imports US cars to sell and make a little bit of money for charities. He actually brought it in, and pretty much as soon as it got here, I bought it off him. So that's where I found it. They sort of value it around $40,000 to $50,000 for a car in its standard form, and we spent probably about $50,000 or $60,000 converting it. So
now, did you get the thing where you put the banana on top and it turns it into fusion and you can just drive away like in the movie?
No, we don't have that yet.
You didn't have a Mr. Fusion with it?
Not yet, but maybe it's something we could add.
Well, now I'm looking here, and because I know, I believe the technical term is FA about converting a car to electric. What was the main challenge? I mean, to me, you've got a huge area in the front here where you could put something. Is that where the batteries are going?
There are some batteries in the front, which I'll show you here.
Hey, there's room in the boot. Unlike a lot of electric cars, particularly the Mini that was converted to electric recently, there's room in the boot here.
That's right. Well, the only thing we took out was the spare wheel well. So we cut that section out, so the batteries are actually in there. There's more batteries in the back. And, essentially it's got the same amount of space as it had before.
Yeah. Like, obviously you would never go drag racing in this or exceed the speed limit, but if someone was in a fictitious situation to do that, what do you, 0 to 100 and possibly a top speed that possibly a car like this could obtain in a fictional condition?
Well, I would guess, like standard, it would have done about 0 to 110 seconds, which is not very impressive, but I think it'd be more like 7 or 8 maybe now. So I haven't trialled it yet, but it does pull a lot harder than what it used to.
Now, of course, the DeLorean's known as the Back to the Future car, but it's also very unusual because, as far as I know, there aren't many cars that have a stainless steel body.
No, that's right. This has got the stainless steel outer shell, which actually is good because it doesn't require any paint work. And this car's 30 years old and it still looks quite good. So it was a good design. And the idea was to replace panels in lieu of repairing them.
Now, of course, stainless steel is heavier than what you would normally have on the body. So has that made the car heavier overall because of the stainless steel body?
No, because the stainless steel is so strong, it's really thin. And the body itself is actually made of fiberglass. So the stainless steel is just an outer shell for appearance. The only problem with driving down the shops is that you get bailed up by heaps of people. It takes a lot longer to go anywhere.
I was going to say, the reason any guy modifies any car is to get the chicks. So how does it go?
Well, it seems to work. It's heaps of blokes too, unfortunately.
Well, it just gets everybody, and you just got to work your way through the crowd. Take a number, people. That's the way it's got to go. And of course, you get the yes, that would be a DeLorean is used in the. You get a lot of geeks coming up too, a lot of pseudoscientists.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Like you see geeks standing on the side of the road laughing, and other people just pointing. Yeah, it's the same reason why I like the car. It's basically it's got some sort of attraction about it, but everyone just says, where's your flux capacitor? But the benefit is it's got an axial flux motor, so it's the same deal. Yeah.
And what do you think we have to have as far as infrastructure goes before we have a successful electric car market in Australia?
We need, obviously, more charging stations, so that's the way of the future. There should be more of those around, and quicker charging. So if the charging stations can actually produce a lot of power, then they can actually charge a vehicle within half an hour. So,
what about inductive charging, where if you drive up to your parking spot at work or in a car station, it actually charges while you're on the mat there? Is that anywhere near happening in Australia?
I've never seen it happening, but yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Well, I think what a good idea is to get into the passenger seat of this car and you take me for a bit of a drive and let's just see how we go. Rightio, I'm hopping into the DeLorean now. Unfortunately, no sort of carbon dioxide type gas came out the bottom of it when the door opened, so frankly I'm a bit disappointed. There we go. Now, of course, this is the first time I've ever encountered a gull door. Is it with a gull wing door? Okay, so you shut it like this. There we go. Right, and I tell you, it's a nice solid thump. I better put the seatbelt on because having seen electric cars go, and actually, hear that, everybody? That's right, you can't hear anything because it's an electric car. I think this might be my first time in an electric car. Now, mind you, one thing I must say, the roof is about 2 inches above my head. Like, I've got to say, despite the roof being so low, it's contoured so it fits in there.
That's right. It's basically...
Hey! Oh, holy mother of pants. It's got a bit of an acceleration there, Brett.
Yes. John DeLorean was quite tall himself, so he had these cutouts put into the roof to support tall people.
Wow. Now, you've got a little bit of a... You've got a tablet computer there reading out all the items for you there.
Yeah, and what current's being drawn from the motor, so there's 200, 300 amps. So,
wow.
Yeah, so you get an idea of what's happening. So it tells you how much capacity is left in the batteries, so you know how much range you've got left.
So it felt like to get from pretty much 0 to 60k there took about 2 seconds.
Yeah, it pulls quite hard.
Well, I really have... So if we go fast enough, will we go back to the 50s?
With a bit of luck.
I'd like to go to 1987. That was a top year.
Cruises quite smoothly.
Yeah, we are cruising along now. I assure you, everyone, at exactly the speed limit. We are not exceeding the speed limit whatsoever. And it's great. I'm having the time of my life. Yeah, I tell you, the looks on people's faces as you go past them, it's a bit like,
That's right.
They're looking, hey, that's not Michael J. Fox.
No, it's even funny if I have my daughter in the car because it's left-hand drive. Everyone thinks that she's driving.
Oh, she wouldn't mind that at all.
No.
Oh, yeah, look, we're back at the workshop now, driving past my car, which makes me feel pretty sad. Now the challenge of opening the gull wing door, what do I do here? This here, is this it?
Yep, pull that.
Pull that, and up it goes. Again, no carbon dioxide gas coming out the bottom of it, unfortunately. And you've got to mind your head as you get out, but it's a winner.
Ein großes Hallo an alle deutschen Zuhörer des Skeptic Zone Podcasts. Wusstet ihr, dass es auch in Deutschland einen Skeptikerverband gibt? Für weitere Informationen über uns und das Skeptiker Magazin besucht www.gwup.org. Ich wiederhole, www.gwup.org und unsere offiziellen Facebook, Twitter und Google Plus Seiten.
Well, thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week, and I'm here at the breakfast table, still enjoying the odd pancake or two. Eden Smith, thank you for making those lovely pancakes.
You're very welcome, Richard, anytime.
They were delicious with honey. Oh, local honey, and I can even hear the bees buzz. No, it's a fly. I'm here at the breakfast table with all my skeptical friends. We're here for the mighty mid-muster, the water divining test. A full report about the water divining test on next week's show. Laurie, do you think we'll be giving away the $110,000 prize to a water diviner?
Well, Richard, as any good skeptic would say, we'll wait until we gather the evidence. I have no opinion until we get the data in.
What a good skeptic. And so from the wonderful countryside at Midamida, until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off. Applause.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.